Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Oakland ACE Early Middle College Information Night. My name is Dr. Amanda McKay, Supervisor of Student Programs for Oakland Schools. Thank you for joining me as we officially begin our 2026-2027 Oakland ACE recruitment cycle. Tonight, my goal is to give you a clear, practical, and encouraging understanding of what ACE is, how it works, and how it can support students through a powerful early college experience. The link to tonight's presentation is in the chat, and I'll drop that in there again just one more time in case it got kind of buried. So please feel free to click on that. There are a lot of our resources that I'm going to review with you tonight hyperlinked in the presentation. And then if we have any updates, new emerging information, I will update that same slide deck throughout our enrollment process. Tonight, I'm going to also be visiting Oakland Community College or OCC's website, Lawrence Technological University or LTU's website. So links to those are also in the chat. And then I'll record tonight's presentation. And after we add some subtitles, I will also post it to our YouTube channel, which is linked on the Oakland ACE website. In addition to this presentation, I encourage you to use the chat in order to ask questions and engage with one another. So if you wouldn't mind really quickly, just so I know a little bit about how to personalize my presentation for this evening, if you wouldn't mind, if you feel comfortable, just sharing the school where your son or daughter is attending currently. That'll help me kind of craft some of those answers for specific high schools who might have families or students in attendance. If you prefer to ask questions, I'm going to have many different pauses during this presentation where you have the opportunity to ask questions. And then something I absolutely love doing and frequently do are meet with parents and students, either in person on Zoom or have a phone call, and just kind of hear about your story and what questions you have as you're evaluating if Oakland ACE is the right pathway for your child moving forward. So thank you so much. It's awesome to see those districts represented: Farmington, Clarenceville, Lake Orion, Milford, Walled Lake, Bloomfield, Southfield. Welcome. I'm so excited to share a little bit about Oakland ACE with you this evening. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. Let me just make a quick transition. Okay. So this is my contact information. As I mentioned, I'm more than happy, and it is truly a delight, a joy in my job to be able to meet with students and parents all over our county and talk about different possibilities, not only with Oakland ACE, but a lot of the different programs that we offer through Oakland schools. So you're welcome to contact me anytime through email or cell phone, and then we can set up whatever works best for you, either individual meeting, Zoom, or phone call. And happily, I also get to visit a lot of our high schools. So there's a good chance that I've either been to your son or daughter's high school or have an upcoming visit sometime between January and March, as a lot of our schools do let me come in and talk to our 10th grade students. So tonight we're going to cover a few things. And again, I will stop between major chunks of information so you have a chance to ask questions. And if you have a question, then someone else most likely has the same question. So if you're comfortable, please pop that in the chat or just unmute and ask that out loud. We're going to talk about all of the different opportunities that students in Oakland County have to earn college credit while in high school. And there are a lot of them. Then we're going to talk specifically about why early middle college, what factors might you consider when you're looking at something like Oakland ACE. Talk about a day in the life of an Oakland ACE 11th grade student in particular, because that's when the program begins, and many of you have 10th graders who are looking at this for their 11th grade year. I'm going to get a little bit into the different courses that we help students select, the degree pathways, and transfer credit. Talk specifically about LTU and OCC, who are our college partners. And then I'll highlight the enrollment steps, which are also available and totally updated on our website. And then briefly talk about some upcoming events we have for information. All right, so as far as opportunities for high school students to earn college credit while they're still in high school, our county has a lot of different offerings, so we're really fortunate. One that you've probably heard of is the first column, dual enrollment. So in Oakland County, dual enrollment has been around for quite some time. And the state allows anyone from 8th grade until senior year to participate in dual enrollment. In our county, a common practice, though, is that students can participate in dual enrollment in 11th or 12th grade, and many times that's after they've exhausted the course pathway in the department in the high school. So, for example, what this often looks like is, let's say you're a high school student and you're taking math classes and you're hoping to dual enroll and take math at the college level. Oftentimes, our high schools will have students exhaust all of the math classes in the department through AP Calc BC in order to then dual enroll. That's not a hard and fast rule, and high schools sometimes do have different practices, but that's commonly what we see. So students who dual enroll take up to 10 college classes. That's what's allowed by the state. And then they're able often to go to multiple different colleges depending upon what your high school allows. So it's important for me to talk about the difference between dual enrollment and early middle college, because often with all these different pathways, it can get a bit confusing. I know it definitely was for me when I was first learning about these things. So a main difference between dual enrollment and early middle college, our early middle college programs can really start anywhere in a student's high school experience, and your high school might have its own early middle college program. And our program in particular starts in 11th grade year. We do in all programs, early college programs, add that 5th year. That's a requirement from the state. And that 5th year is where a student is completely a college student. And there are some things I'm going to describe in depth about the 5th year coming up soon. You are allowed to take up to 62 college credits that we completely pay for throughout the course of our program. Early middle college programs add this other required component from the state, which is a support class. Our class is called Seminar. And then the students are often focusing on Michigan transfer agreement credits, and it is completely free. You might also hear about 3 other popular options in our county. One is having different opportunities at the OSTC campuses where you can have credit articulated in your OSTC programs. And then we have advanced placement classes happening in so many of our high schools, and even some of our high schools that are still offering international baccalaureate classes. So lots of different options for students to explore. And sometimes our students are combining a variety of these pathways in order to kind of get that right mix of challenge for them and whatever different experience they're looking for to help them explore careers and get into college or join the military or enter the world of work after these programs. So many of our programs, oddly enough, have the word Oakland in their names. And I'm sorry in advance that this part gets a little bit confusing because we all used the name of our county in our program names. But just to broadly contextualize where ACE sits, is we are part of Oakland Schools Intermediate School District, and we provide a lot of different educational services for the county. But some of the services specifically serving students are the OSTC technical campuses. They're also in my department. The Oakland Technical Early Middle College, OTech, which is my sister program, and then Oakland ACE Early Middle College. So the difference between the 3 of us, OSTC, you're at your high school, and you're at the OSTC technical campuses, and there are 4 in our county. OTech, you're combining 3 things: your high school, OSTC, and early college classes at either LTU or OCC. And then Oakland ACE, that's the program I'm highlighting this evening in particular, where you are spending half your day at your high school, and then you're attending college classes at either at LTU or OCC, and you're having that seminar college success class. So both OTech and Oakland ACE have had a long history with OCC. They have a lot of different early college students on their campus. They've been very successful for over 13 years with our programs. And a complete list of who participates with ACE as far as schools in our county is linked here in the presentation. And then our newest partnership, we're very excited that we have Lawrence Technological University. I'm just going to refer to them as LTU from now on, coming on board this year. And currently the districts that you see to the right there are the districts who've signed agreements with us so that your students can explore that pathway option if they'd like to. So for both Oakland Community College and LTU, students are available to take classes at their campuses and online. All right. So specifically for early middle college, when you're considering this pathway, there's a couple different things that you might want to kind of really think through because it's an important decision and we want to make sure that you're comfortable with the decision that you made, given that it's a 3-year commitment and it does add that 5th year to the high school experience. So the reason why early college is kind of something to weigh, am I looking for that or not, is one is that you do a lot of in-depth exploration about yourself, careers, and college. So that seminar class that you're attending once a week is really designed to help you get to know more about what you want to do with your life after the program. So if you're somebody who is really into that kind of research and discussion and looking more into that for yourself, you would definitely love seminar. But if you're someone who doesn't really connect with that or is not interested in exploring those things, that is definitely okay because we know our high schools are doing a lot with that too. So it might be a reason why the program would be less interesting to you. Of course, the program I think is wonderful because we provide this really great jump start in credits for free to our students. So there are absolutely no costs, no strings attached. There's never going to be any kind of surprise bill. We pay for all of the tuition, all of the student fees and textbooks, and we provide a Chromebook to our students. So it is completely 62 credits and student fees and books paid for the course of the program. We hope that our students are choosing classes, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, that will then transfer. And then one of the reasons why I love our program in particular is because our students are actually taking college classes with other college students, oftentimes on college campuses or in an online class environment. And so that's really helping them see that they can do this. College is something that they can be successful at, and they're in a real authentic college environment. I do have a link there to the state of Michigan's page on early middle colleges in case you would like to know more about that. So that's our first big chunk of information. I'm going to pause and take some questions. Again, however you're most comfortable, if you'd like to ask them in the chat or on mute and ask questions. I do want to just give you a heads up that next I'm going to talk really in depth about ACE's 3-year structure, the 11th grade schedule, seminar, the degrees, and enrollment timeline. So if you have any questions about information that I've already presented, please feel free to ask those at this time. Okay. Well, I just put the link to the PowerPoint in there again, so wanted to make sure everybody was able to access that. I'll go ahead and move on, and we're going to have 2 more opportunities for questions that you might have. So getting really into the meat and potatoes of the schedule, like a lot of questions about what does this actually look like if you're an 11th grader, what's going to happen? So in the first year of the program, your 11th grade year, you're going to have half day at your high school. And for the majority of our county on a 6-hour day, that's 3 classes. But if you're a school, like I saw we had Lake Orion and Bloomfield, and you have additional hours, you can think of this as you're going to half of your school day in the morning. And the reason why you're going in the morning is because you'll have your seminar once a week in the afternoon, and you'll have your college classes in the afternoon. So you can see that that first year is 3 courses or half your day in high school, that you're taking 2 college classes each semester, so a total of 4. And you're going to have seminar in person in the 11th grade year. It is an in-person experience, and that happens 1 day a week for 90 minutes at the college campuses. Every time during this presentation, this slide in particular, when I'm talking, you see little asterisks. Those are the elements of the program that are required by the state of Michigan for us to be an early middle college program. Just wanted to note that if you see the little asterisk. So in year 2 of the program, you're going to spend more time at college with 2 high school courses, 3 college courses each semester. You're still going to have seminar. And this is your senior year. This is that amazing time in a student's life where there are so many great traditions taking place, and you're going to still participate in all of those. So as a high school senior, you're going to be able to go to all of the different events, especially your graduation and your prom and the different senior activities. And even though you're not actually earning your high school degree until after your 5th year or your 3rd year in the program, you're still going to walk across the stage at graduation and get the diploma cover like everyone else. And then during the third year, as you can see there on the far right, that's when you'll be fully a college student. You're not taking any classes at high school, though the classes that you're taking at college count towards your high school requirements. So you can see that one semester you'll take a math or math related class that's going to count toward your high school diploma. And then the next semester you're going to take a course that we call a forbidden course, or it's kind of that high school graduation requirement that we're holding back in order to ensure you stay in the program. And after those two are complete and all of your degree requirements are fulfilled for your high school diploma, then you'll get your high school diploma. So there is a component in here where we add that fifth year. I just want to make sure, because that is definitely something where a lot of our students are weighing, as I'm considering if this program is right for me, do I want to add this extra year where I am a full-time college student? I still have the support of the program, but I'm also, having my friends and peers perhaps going off to college and doing other things. So definitely a point to consider if that's something that you would be interested in. And it's also delaying you applying to college until your third year or 13th grade. So that's when we start doing all of the work with our students. It really kind of begins at the end of your 12th grade year, where we're prepping you for the college apps opening in August, writing that college essay, getting on Common App, and then doing everything with FAFSA, applying to colleges, and then as you start to get those acceptances and offers, evaluating the financial packages and seeing what college is going to cost you. So that's kind of the structure of the program over the 3 years. This is more in depth about the 11th grade day. So again, you're taking classes in the beginning of your school day. Traditionally, they are classes like English 11 or AP Literature or Language. A math class, we'd like you to make sure you're through Algebra 2 if possible this 11th grade year, because that's going to lead to some math work later on at OCC. And then your third class is often something that is a high school requirement. Sometimes these three classes that end up staying in your schedule are often kind of driven by your high school's master schedule. So an example would be, let's say you really wanted as an 11th grader to take AP Government, and it was only available the last hour of your school day. So if that were to happen, you need to be free during the last half of your school day to be part of college and take seminar. So you would have to work with your high school counselor to choose another class that you could take during the beginning of your day. At LTU and OCC as an 11th grader, you're taking some form of composition. And I've got some example schedules coming up so you can actually see what that looks like. And then we're usually asking that you try and take classes from the Michigan Transfer Agreement. At OCC, that's usually a social science or fine arts requirement. At LTU, that's going to be a class that you agree on with your academic plan program advisor. And then you're taking that seminar, and we will have the exact seminar schedule. Which one you'll be choosing will be an option on a menu there by March 1st, which is when you start actually choosing your classes for next fall. So that will all align. Okay, so I'm gonna minimize my screen there real quick. I know I'm still sharing, but I need to be able to drag and drop a little bit to demonstrate some of these things. So I have this kind of example to show you. This is set up like a high school 6-hour day. And in this example, the student is going to hours 1, 2, and 3. They spend their first 3 hours at the high school, and then they're going to choose their seminar course. Again, that is a 1 time a week course. So that will go into their schedule. And then in this example, let's say they're going to go ahead and take English. It's going to be a 3-hour class. We're going to try and get that right when high school ends. And then you're going to take psychology. Let's say that psychology ends up meeting on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and you want to try and back that up to your seminar if you can. So you can see here that not every day of the week in this example, and oftentimes for all of our students, do they actually go to class for a full day, 5 days of the week. In this example, Wednesday and Friday, to the kids, at least at first, until we work with them, looks open. So much fun and freedom. I can go home and nap. And a little bit of that freedom does happen. But what we work with them on is we really need to build these habits. So again, as you're looking at if this program is for you or not, are you the type of student who is ready to kind of embrace that studying? Because it's definitely part of being a college student is ensuring that. And it doesn't come naturally to everyone. It's something that we definitely work on, and we don't assume all students love it or want to do it. So a lot of work goes into helping them build healthy study habits. And then we do have quite a few of our students who are able to maintain being in a sport, club, fine arts of some sort. So lots of times you can choose a seminar that goes from 12:30 to 2. What we're hoping with that is that will get you back to your high school for those clubs or rehearsals or sports that might meet right after school. It does take some juggling if you're heavily involved, especially in things like marching band or robotics that really are big demands on time, but it definitely can be done. So the question in the chat is, can students participate in OSTC and ACE at the same time? It depends. OSTC's early college matchup pair is OTEC, Oakland Technical Early College. So if Oakland Technical Early College has a pathway that matches up, like I'm trying to think of a good example, automotive, for example. If they're in the automotive program at Oakland Tech, Oakland Technical campus, and OTech Early College has an automotive program, then they would need to go with that. But some of the programs don't match up. So if your student was in culinary or cosmetology, they don't have an early college match. So then we could look at you being part of ACE. And the OTech website lists all of the early college opportunities that they have at the technical campuses. All right. So just a couple more slides here. Briefly talk about what the 12th grade school day looks like. So you're going to still be at your high school in the morning. You're going to be there for 2 classes or 1/3 of your day if you're in one of those high schools with different schedules. You're going to increase the amount of college classes that you take and still have your seminar. That's going to meet once a week. And I've talked about seminar now a few times. So again, this is one of the things that separates us from dual enrollment, and separate in a good or bad way dependent upon what your needs are as a learner. So again, if you're somebody who really does want to be in a small cohort and work with other students and a counselor on things like time management, weekly planning, college and career planning, get really explicit help with if you do need like to access the academic center, if you need a tutor, if you want to meet with your professor during office hours, how to communicate with your professor. We really do provide a lot of direct and practical practice for our students on all of the basics of being successful in college. So that's what happens in seminar. And then seminar is led by our early college student support coordinators. So there is a person dedicated to your seminar location who will hopefully be with you for all 3 years of the program. You can move locations if you want to, and all 3 of our instructors are great. They'll get to know you, what your goals are, and they'll even help you with your academic planning. Our students are able to see the counselors at both college campuses. Oftentimes they work with a combination of the college counselor and their early college support coordinator. And all 3 of them have counseling backgrounds, so they're happy to help with advising. Just to give you a glimpse of what the seminar schedule is this year, we do take into consideration every single year the number of students who sign up for each of the locations, and then we decide how many sessions of seminar to offer. So this is what we're offering this fall, for example. So you can see that on Mondays, we have a Royal Oak 11th grade section of seminar that meets from 1:30 to 3. And then here are the Friday options where we're trying to give our athletes or students who have something going on right after school, like a rehearsal or practice, that time to get back to their high school. And based on our enrollment at each location, we'll have a seminar schedule out by March 1st, which will line up right when you're going to choose your OCC classes for the fall. Okay, another big chunk of information. So again, I'm going to stop and pause before presenting the different degrees offered and the enrollment timeline and see what questions there might be. Please feel free to ask in the chat or unmute and ask.
Hi, I have a couple questions.
Okay.
I was curious, and it might be covered in your next part of the presentation. So, if a child is looking at a more specialized associate's degree, let's take medical sonography for an example, does the ACE program, because I saw it was only 62 credits, and if a program is 89, it obviously isn't covering the full length of the program if you're accepted into the sonography, let's say. Now, the balance of the remaining credits, could that be picked up by this Michigan community like guarantee thing that they have out now that our governor put in place? Like, would that pick up the remaining balance, or are the parents responsible for the balance?
Yeah, so you're absolutely correct that now in our state, after you graduate from high school, community college is free for up to 2 years. And so that would then be able to pick up and pay for the rest of a degree. And I will talk about the reason why we offer the four associates we do in there, because they're the ones that only take 62 credits to earn. So what we would do with a steno or somebody who was interested in stenography, because we've had quite a few, is we would take a look at a lot of science classes that will end up being part of that program as the students move forward. And it's usually an associates in science and fine arts, believe it or not, that the students are working towards. And then they'll have a lot of the basic requirements out of the way. They can either remain at OCC and get that associates, or they could take that and transfer.
Okay. Um, and then, so like, what happens if we say the course of potentially doing the sonography program, and then when it came time to applying, all of the available seats are full? Now, at that point, would you kind of like transition from doing that type of program to doing like working the course, um, the courses for that Michigan transfer, or does it turn into the Associates of Arts? Like, would you follow that type of like course plan?
Yeah, so you like if you weren't going to stay at OCC and you knew that in advance, we would be planning for wherever you're going. Or if we thought that OCC could be full and you weren't going to have the opportunity to stay there, we could be looking at two or three different options. And then you're going to you're trying to find as many courses in common that would transfer to all the options you have going. And then after you get that list, you prioritize like based on what will fit in your schedule. And quite honestly, a lot of that ends up being like what else you have going on. So there in your life. I mean, so like while I want to say that we would probably prioritize biology 1511 because it's usually something that transfers and to all maybe three options that you have going, if you can't find a section that meets that semester and lines up with your schedule, then we would look for a backup option. So there's a lot of different variables being worked with at once. And I'm not sure about, I don't know enough about that program being full, but maybe it does happen where we would make sure that the student had some backup plans going.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Is it likely that the students will have classes in the evening? I was talking to our counselor at high school, and she said that that's something I should think about if I wanted her out at night.
Okay. So the students have they can choose any college class at OCC. We are just beginning to work with LTU, so I'm not as familiar. The OCC course offerings, we have priority scheduling. So what we try and get our students to take advantage of is the classes that meet from like 11:10, 11:30, 12:40 on. There's a lot of different reasons why that's preferable. But there are, because especially at the community college OCC option, there are night classes. So students can sign up for them. They're not as widely offered as the during the day ones. There are even Saturday classes, to be honest, that sometimes students take advantage of. So it's not that they would have to take classes at night, but they could choose that if they wanted to. They can also choose from any of the online options, which right now OCC offers online, asynchronous, hybrid, which is a half in person, half online, and online live, which you're just on with your professor during set times. So if you wanted to avoid night classes, which we don't have a ton of that going on, usually if it's going on, it's by choice. Then there are a lot of different options to do that.
Okay, so there's the option to go to LTU or OCC.
Yes.
How do you choose?
So I'm going to talk about both
Oh,
programs. And basically, some of it is to do with, quite honestly, the logistics of life. So if you're going to LTU, you're definitely going either online or to Southfield, and you're going for the specific types of degrees they offer. If you're going to OCC, you're going for their campuses that are online at Auburn Hills, Royal Oak, Orchard Ridge, or Southfield. So there's just a different variety of options, and they specialize in different things. So LTU is a lot more STEM heavy, which is not a good or bad thing, but definitely geared towards students in the STEM fields. And OCC is more of a fine arts, liberal type of degree.
thank you.
Yeah, the LTU pathway is brand new for us, so we're just getting started with them, and I will tell you about some events coming up that we're gonna have with them and at their campus. Other questions? Okay. All right. So let's go on to how we help students choose classes. First and foremost, we want students to be getting to know themselves and their interests so that they're selecting classes that are of high interest to them. So in our county, students participate in something year after year called Zello. You may have heard this term. Sometimes they even choose their class schedule through there. And that's been asking them all along about their career interests, their personalities, their learning styles. We continue to do more in-depth versions of that throughout Oakland ACE. So what are you interested in is very important to us. And sometimes students really believe they're interested in something and take the first class in it, and they are no longer interested in it. And that's great too. They definitely learn something, and then they don't need to, take classes in that area anymore. So what are your interests? Then we're looking to fulfill degree pathway requirements. I'm going to get in depth with that coming up. We want to make sure you're fulfilling the graduation requirements at your high school. So many of these classes taken at the colleges can also count towards your high school. It is totally up to each high school what they allow to count, but a lot of them will count. An example is many of our high schools will allow OCC's English 1510 and 1520 to count as English 11 or 12. So you don't have to take one or the other at your high school, for example. We also want to make sure that the student is maximizing their transfer flexibility. So the example I just gave, the sooner the students can kind of identify where they're headed after the program, we can start working with transfer guides and help them select courses that will transfer, or at least know, if I take this class because I'm really interested in it. And a good example is medical terminology. For example, for some reason, OCC's medical terminology 2-credit class does not transfer well to other schools in our state. But some students are just so into that and want to take the class. We'll go ahead and allow them to, because it's going to be part of their plan and align in some way, but they'll know in advance that that's not going to transfer. It doesn't happen often, but those are definitely things we work with the students on. And then our students are busy. I don't have to tell you that because you are living with them and you know how busy they are. So lots of times, some of the choices that they make are more practical. I know I need a fine arts requirement. I can choose between sociology, psych, or ethics. Well, let's look at when they meet and, all the different meeting options, locations, and formats, and make a choice based on what will fit my busy schedule. This is an example of a plan that we keep the whole time with the students. So we do update this constantly with them. It's called a 3-year plan, and it's what we kind of keep track of with them so that they're fulfilling the requirements of the degree that they're taking at either one of the colleges that they're in. And then of course the colleges are keeping track too. So when we talk with students about earning transfer credits and those associate's degrees, again, they're focused on the 62 transfer credits that we pay for, combining that with the Michigan Transfer Agreement, which I'm going to deep dive into that here in a minute, and then potentially earning an associate's degree. So I say potentially because I'm going to shrink this down here real quick, because not all of our students end up earning that associate's degree, and it's usually purposeful because they take classes that will transfer and don't necessarily add up to that degree, which is okay. As long as it's part of a well thought out plan, we can have that happen. So in this next slide, and a link that you might want to click on just to look at more, even if this program is not for you, just highly, highly recommend that you keep the Michigan Transfer Agreement colleges and information in your knowledge bank. These are all of the different universities that in general will transfer credits. They don't always transfer easily, and it's something that we work with our students on, but there is at least the opportunity that you'll go to one of these colleges' websites and be able to find transfer guides. So LTU specifically, when you're looking at what transfers, because LTU is a STEM private college, they use a system called TES. So when we work with our students, we'll be going in particular to say like, okay, you're interested in going to Central Michigan, and we want to make sure that you're taking as many classes at Central Michigan that will transfer. Now, your students are not supposed to, coming right into the program as an 11th grader, know exactly where they're headed. Please do not worry, that's what seminar is for. But this is the level of granular detail we will eventually get to with them. And then for OCC, whoops, again, linked right here, they organize theirs a little bit different. It's not a table that you click on. They're basically just saying, here are the courses that we offer at OCC that satisfy the Michigan Transfer Agreement, or MTA. And they list their classes by subject area. So you can earn an MTA certificate on your diploma, and that means that you've taken the 30 credits that will lead to you getting the MTA certificate. And again, we track that right here. So you can see here in this 3-year plan, the MTA requirement bank of classes. And those are the classes that the students will take, about 30 credits that we're really hoping will transfer wherever they end up going. So at OCC, our students will be working towards 4 different degrees they can choose from. And it's because these are the degrees that they're able to earn within the 62 credits we pay for. The Associates in Arts is by far and away the degree most of our students are working on. Then we also offer business admin, science, and technological science. And again, great example that was asked about going into a field that, we don't have enough credits like that we pay for you to earn the degree. Then you can either self-pay or have the Michigan free college, community college kick in. At Lawrence Tech, their offerings are a little bit different. You're mostly working towards an associate in general studies, and then you're going to focus with the help of your program advisor on one of these areas: architecture and design, arts and sciences, business and IT, engineering, or health sciences. So I'm going to shrink this again and come out to LTU's site, which is linked there. So LTU site, and when you come here, if you keep scrolling down, more tiles will expand. So there are a ton of degrees that they offer that you can work toward, but you'll just be, and I don't want to say just because it's a huge accomplishment. At LTU, you'll be earning an associate's in general studies, and you'll be focusing in one of these different areas. So I'll show you an example of what that looks like there. So again, this looks a lot like what happens at OCC, where you're taking these composition classes and some of their electives. Like here's a social science elective, for example. But then where you see specialized pathway course, that could be your engineering, your architecture, or your business. Pretty much LTU, they're doing some great work with a lot of our local districts. They want you to sit down with a program advisor and put together a pathway that is meaningful to you. So right now, it's sounding like almost anything class-wise that our students would be eligible to take, they could potentially work into a degree pathway for you, which is just really great to hear from them. All right, so again, just to revisit, we have these two great college partnerships. LTU, they do have different enrollment timelines, so I'm going to talk about this a little bit. Next, there are a couple different requirements. So LTU does require a 3.0 for students, and OCC is a 2.0. The LTU enrollment window doesn't start until April 4th and goes until June 30th. For OCC, because we get priority registration with them, we want our students to be enrolling between December and March, and then they're going to choose their classes by March 14th at OCC with my help, and that's going to help us get those key times that we really want for our 11th grade students, and we get that priority scheduling. So we're scheduling 1 week in advance of everyone else, us and the athletes, and it's really helped our students to get the exact classes that they want. For placement at LTU, if you don't place into their entry level composition class, that is okay, but you would have to take 1 or 2 classes in order to build up to that. At OCC, you self-place, you select the level of English that you believe you would be appropriate for, and you're choosing between English 1510, 1510E, which is enhanced, and that means 1 extra credit hour of support, so it's a 4 credit class, or English 1510S, which is supported, which is 3 extra credit hours of support. So it's a total of 6 classes, or I'm sorry, 6 credits. And if you took English 1510S, which we definitely have some students taking, it would be your only class that semester, 11th grade year. So for some students, that is a great introduction, especially if English has at times been challenging for you. There's a lot of support baked into those classes. Registration for the classes. So when I use the term registration, I should have explained in the beginning, this is like actually choosing your college classes. So that's got to be done for LTU by July 30th, and a little bit quicker deadline, June 30th for OCC. Everyone in the whole program will attend this really great summer orientation. It is just 1 day, but it's so much fun, and you get to know your cohort, you get to know your early college success coordinator. So there'll be 4 dates for students to choose from in July and August, and they'll get, information about their textbooks. They can start buying their textbooks, or I'm sorry, they're not going to actually pay for them, but we'll give them the information to get their Chromebooks. It's just a lot of fun. And then both schools begin the same week, the week of August 25th. I'm just going to minimize this really quick. I do keep, with the help of our amazing communications department, our website totally up to date. The second something changes in our process, it's reflected here. So if you have questions about the exact steps for OCC or LTU, they're all spelled out here. And then there is a kind of a PDF in case you wanted to print something off and have that. And then even the timelines are here for you to take a look at it at any time. So our website is just kind of a great one-stop shop. All right, as we wind down here, I'm just going to make sure that, and I'll answer questions at the end. I'm just going to talk to you about some specific events we have coming up. So with these 2 pathways, for LTU specifically, we're going to have a virtual information night with both ACE and OTEC, both Oakland Schools Early College Programs, and LTU on January 29th. You just sign up right on our website. ACE is going to have our own virtual event with LTU February 12th. And then if you're really looking at LTU, want to see the campus, experience things there, we're going to have an on-campus visit on March 19th. For specific recruitment events for the OCC pathway, we're really excited to have these 3 events coming up at OCC's campus. So we've let all of the high school counselors know about these events so they can sign up to take kids during the school day. And these will happen at OCC. We do a campus tour. Our current students are there. We do a student panel so they can hear right from our current students. And we also have an in-person information night at Oakland Schools on January 14th. You can register on our website, and we'll also have our current students there so you can hear from them. So that is the end of the formal presentation. And I'd love to answer any questions that you have at this time, either in the chat or if you feel comfortable unmuting and just asking.
So I do have a question. For the OCC campuses, does she get to pick a particular campus that's more convenient, or how does that work?
Yeah, students can pick, you can even be at multiple campuses in a semester if that's how things work out in your life. You know, if you just, the night class that you might want is here, the right after school class is here. When you sign up for online classes, they have campus locations listed next to them, but if it's online asynchronous, you don't have to worry about that. The hybrid option, you would go for half the class periods. So yeah, at the OCC option, they can choose from any of the in-person campuses. And they can even switch in the fall, you might be all at Royal Oak, and in the winter, you might be all at Auburn Hills. Definitely as students start to specialize, like the graphic design classes, for example, are mostly at Orchard Ridge. So there'll be some things like that that students will have to navigate as they get into the upper level classes in certain areas.
Thank you.
All right, so on the MyStar account, let me share my screen again. Or I think I am still sharing. Sorry about that. So the MyStar account gets you pre-registered. This is a question in the chat. I'm sorry. I should have said what I was talking about. So in the chat, we were asked about creating the MyStar account. So that is step one right here. Same in both pathways. So once you get in here, you're gonna complete online enrollment. This is maybe gonna be 10 minutes. The most difficult part is getting, here saying that you want to be part of ACE, you want to continue or start a new form. So start a new form is where most of you are gonna be. This whole thing might take 10 minutes, and I would try and do it all in one time. So you don't have to worry about logging back in. What it does is it collects your basic information, and then I get all that information. And once I get it, I email you and say, here are the next steps in the process. And those next steps in the process, I'm on the OCC pathway right now, are for both schools, you're going to send a form to your high school counselor. Both the forms look different, but you're essentially going to have your high school counselor sign off on you being part of the program. Sorry, started sharing the wrong screen. So you're gonna go in here and kind of fill out some basic information, and then you're gonna head it to your high school counselor, and they're gonna sign off. So yeah, the MyStar portion just basically gets their account created with Oakland Schools. Okay, so how do AP credits work with the MTA? That's a great question. So the AP classes can count as those college requirements. So a good example is AP Lang or literature. So the students will meet with a college advisor, or they don't have to, but the ideal situation is they meet with a college advisor at OCC. They can go in person, meet by phone or Zoom with a college advisor, and say, like, I have this AP College Board score. They'll have you actually send the score report to a certain email address, and then that gets put into their My OCC account, and you'll work with your college advisor on what that will count towards at OCC. So a lot of our students are doing both, taking AP classes and college. And it really just helps you to sit down with your advisor and see what that's going to account for at either institution. And then, obviously, if you had AP Lang or literature credit and it counted as your composition class at OCC, you would no longer have to take that. It might count as your English 1510, but then you do take OCC's 1520, which also is the one that transfers to most colleges, but you have to take 1510 as the prereq. So lots of different things that you'll work with. So hopefully I answered that AP course question okay. Not to view the grades. No. So Mrs. Rushell, you asked about not viewing the grades. We do get student grades 3 times during the semester in seminar from them. and we can ask their professors for the grades, but there is far less ability to view student grades on the parent side, as a, somebody who's used to having that constant access as a high school parent. Because I know right now I can, see my kids' scores any second I want to, pretty much, and that is such a gift. It's definitely difficult to know sometimes what students have in college, but we will work with you and them, especially if you think that there's some type of issue going on, so we can get them the support that they need. So we got asked in the chat how many students participate each year. So we're allowed to take 150 students in each cohort. We take students on a first come, first served basis. You just have to meet the minimum requirement that I had on the screen. So some of our high schools will have a higher GPA than what I showed. So you might want to check with them if they have a 3.0 required instead of a 2.0. But as long as you meet the requirements and we get all of the required documentation in, which is also where you're saying, I agree to the 5th year. I know this is a 3-year program. And I'm going to participate in seminar, which is an important part. Then we're taking the first 150 students into the cohort who register. In this past year, we had about 120 students, so we did not have a full cohort. Sometimes I get asked, like, if I'm on the fence and I don't know if I want to be part of OSTC or OTEC or ACE, what should I do? We're all in the same kind of family, so it's easy for us, let's say you were hoping to get an OSTC seat in a certain program and you didn't, as long as it was okay with your high school to make that switch and you wanted to then pursue Oakland ACE, we could definitely have both plans kind of in the works and have us as a backup plan. So that has happened and we're happy to do it. Do you pre-register for Oakland Tech and MyStar like you do for the ACE program? So right now you don't. And that is because you have to first have a seat in an OSTC program. So once you have that, they call it, you get the kind of like an award letter or a program placement letter. Once you get that letter offering you the seat in a program, then you can enroll in Oakland Technical Early College. And that's a separate process led by Ben Morin, who's got a ton of experience and has a very streamlined process. That's a student filling out a Google form, and then he starts communicating with you to get the required pieces. All of his information night info is updated on the OTEC website. You first go to the OSTC campus, and then under their page, you'll find Early College, and he's got everything organized and posted right there. Already applying process, does it pretty much mean you are in it as long as the GPA? Well, so we've got to get your high school's sign off. And that's the form that you submit either to OCC or LTU, and your high school has to say, yes, we agree that they also are on track to graduate and meet the requirements. And then you have to finish all the steps. So let's say a student didn't attend the summer orientation, and like we really have no good reason why, or the student didn't register for classes at a certain point, and I think I had the date up there, June 30th, we would say, like, you haven't fulfilled the enrollment and registration requirements, so we can't move you forward. But yes, you're right. If you meet the requirements and your high school signs off and you're proceeding through the steps and meeting all those timelines, then you're in. It's not, early college was never really meant to be like, real selectionist. We really are trying to get those kids who want the help and assistance and want to get that jump start and have somebody, walk side by side with them on this college journey. So there aren't very many barriers to enrollment. There aren't super high requirements. You do have to be willing to work hard. You have to want the help in seminar and, commit to that 5th year. So those are some of the unique things, but it's meant to scoop up a big group of kids who, will be successful with those supports. If it's not a great fit, can the student transfer back to full-time in the high school? So Olivia, thanks for asking that. You are committing to a 3-year program. And we really try and do everything possible to make sure that you know everything there is to know about the program and consider it before you make the decision. That's why hopefully this feels less like a sales pitch and more like, think about if this is really right for you. if you get into the program and it's not a great fit, what starts happening with really great early communication is we're reaching out to your high school, we're reaching out to the family. We're saying like, why isn't this a great fit? And what is everything we can possibly do to make this situation work? And if it's still not working, we will talk with you, we'll talk with the high school. On rare occasions, students will come out, but I will tell you some districts absolutely say, no, if you commit to the 3-year program, you're staying in the program and we support them in that. So the counselors of the high schools are great. I would have an open and honest conversation. And if your counselor tells you there's no chance we would let you out, then I would believe them. And it's probably not the option for you then. Any other questions if you want to even unmute or continue to ask them in the chat? Okay, well, thank you so much for spending an hour of your time with me this evening. It was really great to share this information. As I mentioned in the beginning, I absolutely love meeting with students and parents. So if you want a personalized meeting, Zoom, in-person, phone, just please reach out and I'm happy to arrange that with you. And I have several more options and presentations coming up in the future. So if you wanted to check out our website and sign up for one of those for more information, please feel free to do that. And I hope you have a wonderful evening. Thank you.